So Leila, we are here to talk about the importance of data, which is in your field of expertise. So how can data help us shift our mindset and expectations?
I think one of the interesting things about changing mindset is we're human, right? And we don't like to change. Like, I'd be out of a job working in technology and helping people change their organizations. I'd be out of a job if people love changing. And the thing is that people find comfort in absolutes. People find comfort in not being wrong or making sure that they feel like they can protect themselves from failing. And I think when you really embrace data and what it can do for you, initially it can feel a bit challenging because you sort of have to get used to sometimes being wrong. And testing your own, I've been working in this industry for a long time, I know how this works, and actually going out and going on, but maybe I don't know it all. So I think how it's really helpful in changing mindset is it starts with us first. It starts with us opening ourselves up to that there are our blind spots and there are unknowns in our careers, in our lives, that data can really help us make more informed decisions. And then the other piece that I'd say is that it can really help with your colleagues. So, and you and I have worked before together, Elle, and there's always things where people, we might be working towards the same goal. We absolutely might want to create an amazing customer experience, or we want to have the best or most innovative events. We really want to reshape what events feel like, how they're experienced, but actually how that's executed, you might have lots of different views on how it should be done. So data is a really good way of helping align people on the best way forward, removing sort of personal biases or any sort of agendas or any personal preferences on how things should be done. Let's get down to the data and see what it tells us.
You used to work in the business events industry, and now your company is helping other industries to improve brand engagement and data or digital transformation, I would say. So what are some innovative examples that you can share that you feel that the business events industry can take a leaf out of?
Absolutely. I think I was only talking to someone the other day, and they work in experimentation, which sounds really fancy, right? But realistically what it is purely just how can we remove as many variables as possible so that we can make sure we're investing in the right area. And their particular example was that they had an international international retail client that wanted to change their checkout experience, their online checkout experience, in the middle of COVID when they were making a mozza. And they were like, no, everyone was convinced there was going to be a great functionality change. It was going to make the card experience better. People are going to be so excited, and it's going to drive revenue. And there was one small voice in the room that just sort of said, can we maybe just experiment with this first and just keep our card experience, but then show this other card experience to a small group of people for a 72-hour period of time, just to make sure we have the data that reinforces what we believe. And during that experiment, what they found out was that it actually reduced the cart checkout total by a couple of percent. Not, 20%, it was under 5%, but to a multinational retailer, that's a massive amount of money that everyone around that boardroom table was convinced was going to be right, was going to make them more money, was going to make the customer happy, and it actually was going to drive down revenue. So it was a really great way for them to be able to go, okay, what we thought we knew wasn't right, and let's let the customer tell us what they want. And I think there's a lot to take out of that from the business events perspective, because I think so many of us, and I know it's been a couple of years since I left, and I miss it. All of you still in it, I miss you. But there's a lot to take out of it because we know it so well. We know it intuitively. A lot of the time you've been working with clients or business partners, sometimes for decades. I remember we used to work with someone, Ellen, she'd worked in the industry for 50 years and knew everything about everyone. And if you needed to know, you would go to that person because she knew that industry inside out. But there is that opportunity where maybe you're looking at a different registration process on your website. Maybe you're looking at a different channel to try and drive sales for your conference, or trying to engage people with your tourism campaign. And I think there's a real value in testing that first. So just to protect yourselves, is there a way without massively over investing? Is there a way for us to test this with the market? And I think sometimes we're so eager, because this is our industry too, right? We just get stuff done, right? Like we are just action orientated. We are passionate about what we do and we want to get it done. So I think there's real value in just taking that moment and take a week just to test it with the audience, see what happens, because if you go live with it, there are so many other variables. Was it the marketing campaign? Was it the wrong day that we launched it on? Was it this? Was it that? Whereas when you just test it purely in that way, you're really controlling the variables and you get the right answer.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that in a world of uncertainty at the moment, I don't think a lot of people can really guarantee success, because if we can, we should be charging a lot more. But I think it's true. They should be paying us $1 million. So I think having tests, whether it's for a session or for a certain engagement or certain opinions, having some content released prior to the actual event, that will really help us test the appetite and also manage risk.
Yeah, and I think that's something we talked about, from an e-commerce perspective, I guess that example was, but that content element is massive as well. So, I remember back in the day, and things may have changed, but back in the day, at the end of a conference, you'd do a survey. Did you like this speaker? Did you like this content? And you'd then use that to inform next year's content. But it was 12 months ago. Times have changed, interests have changed. So how can we test that really quickly? And is it that we take a synopsis, or we go out and we test to a small group? Or is it that you target your marketing in that, if you've got a really strong database and some are suppliers, some are clients, some are, buyers, whatever it is, are you actually better off pivoting how you're positioning each of the content for each of those groups in your campaigns, looking at things like that?
Fantastic. Now, I know that changing mindsets and especially customers' expectation is really quite difficult and it's quite a journey. So just based on your experience so far, what are some of the skill sets needed to convince clients of that change?
I think one of the challenges a lot of the time, and sort of this is my job, because a lot of the time clients come to us and they know that something needs to be done. Quite often clients will come to us in what we call an existential crisis. So we work with some associations or not-for-profits, and like all of a sudden one of our major revenue channels is dried up. For example, events. We know a lot of associations drive industry events, and that's a huge chunk of their revenue. And so they need to pivot. And I think if you can get to a point where you're making those decisions when you don't have, a deadline, like an existential crisis where you're like, our revenue stream just dried up right there. So what I would say is, from a business perspective, and I always start with a personal, is that be open. So go to, courses in emerging areas. So there are organizations, and I know these are in Singapore and they have online representation as well, but General Assembly do really great 2 or 3 hour workshops that you can, eat your dinner while you're watching, because they're online now. If you want to go network, then you can go do them in person. But just things like basic data literacy. And no one needs to be, I'm no data expert. I'm no tech expert. Like, I work in the tech industry and I do not speak developer. I can't code to save my life. But I do have a basic understanding, and then I get the experts to do it for me. I know what I need at the other end. I need actionable data. I need actionable insights so I can make business decisions. I just need a basic level of literacy to make sure that I've got the right data, and I need someone else to go do the magic. So I'd really encourage just getting a basic understanding. It could just be watching a LinkedIn learning video. It could be watching some YouTube videos, and then find an expert that can help you. It doesn't need to be someone you have on staff full time, but people who love data just crunch at this stuff day in, day out. So find someone who can help you set up some experiments. And it might be, a consultancy, but it could also be someone on, Fiverr or a freelancing website that can help you. So that's what I probably look at, is getting a basic level of digital and data literacy, so that when they start talking about certain systems or certain places you're pulling data from, you've got the basic understanding, but get someone else to do the analysis for you and help extract the insights.
For businesses who perhaps cannot afford to lose a piece of business, but also after working with the customers, with a particular customer for a period of time, getting to see that their expectation is a little bit unrealistic. So how can one approach that difficult conversation?
Yes, I also get that a lot. So we'll have organizations who very well meaningly come to us and say, we've got all of this content that we want to share with people and we want it to be a Netflix experience. I'm like, okay, well, Netflix spend probably millions, if not billions of dollars a year on their features and functionality. So how do we scale that back to something that suits you? And I think that's what's important to understand, is that you can have really aspirational goals. You can say, we want to be like Netflix, we want to be like Amazon, but take out those pieces that are relevant for you, that are scalable to your level. So you don't need to go by, we implement enormous digital experience platforms that, can cost millions of dollars to license and to run each year, depending on how complex you build them. But that doesn't mean that you can't take so many learnings from that and take that to your WordPress website. You can absolutely do that. And there are much cheaper and more affordable options. If you want to experiment, you don't need to go buy some $60,000 SaaS solution. There are lots of little add-ons you can do to your Google Analytics to be able to get more information out of it. So I think, that's what I sort of look at, is how you can embrace it at any point or whatever size your organization is.